The Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Yes, they're finally coming back. During Bound for Glory, it was announced that Impact Wrestling are bringing back the Knockouts Tag Team Championship soon. It was announced by Josh Matthews that the championships will return at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January of 2021. Now, to give a bit of backstory about the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team Championships, the first champions were Sarita and Taylor Wilde, and they were crowned in 2009 at the No Surrender pay-per-view. If you're a TNA enthusiast, Impact Wrestling enthusiast back in the day, you will know a lot when it comes to the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Now, the last female tag team to hold the Knockouts Tag Team Championships were Gail Kim and Madison Rayne. Now, I say female because the last actual team to hold the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team Championships were Eric Young and ODB. They were the final champions before the titles were vacated back in 2012, 8 years ago. Now, Impact will kick off the Knockouts Tag Team Championship tournament in November, so we're just in November now. So I don't know if it's going to be this coming week we're going to start off the tournament, or maybe next week. Either way, it was announced last week on the episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV that the tournament will start in a few weeks' time to crown a new champion after the titles were announced as being brought back at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view. The tournament, we know so far, we don't actually know any of the teams taking part in the tournament so far, but we know that the tournament will consist of 8 tag teams, but we don't know yet the tag teams that have been announced. Now, as I mentioned, the Knockouts Tag Team Championships have been defunct since 2012-2013, but the tournament will end with the new champions being crowned at the Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill pay-per-view on January 16th, 2021. Now, this is great news. This is really is great news because I, like many people, have been very high on the praise of the Impact Wrestling Knockouts division. It's arguably one of the, not even arguably, it is one of the best booked women's divisions among any pro wrestling company, whether that's in North America, Europe, Japan, wherever. It is one of the best female divisions in the world. It really is. And the decision to bring back the Knockouts Tag Team Championship has actually been discussed and teased for a while. Obviously, the official announcement was at Bound for Glory, but I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked on this, but I'm pretty sure that the likes of Josh Matthews, Scott D'Amore and Don Callis, etc., I'm pretty sure in interviews and mentions on Impact Wrestling, they've teased or definitely said that the Knockouts Tag Team Championships were returning. So it was no great surprise when the announcement was made at Bound for Glory that the titles were returning, but it's excellent. It's absolutely excellent because it's an easy decision. It's a natural progression. The Knockouts division is one of the cornerstones of Impact Wrestling right now, and to bring back the Tag Team Championship, implement a tag team division is absolutely the right call for Impact Wrestling to do right now. And they've been building up to this very cleverly when it comes to Impact Wrestling, because in the last few months, Impact Wrestling have been teasing the Impact Knockouts Championship by essentially and very subtly aligning lots of the female wrestlers into tag teams, but not really official tag teams, but they've certainly been pairing all the talent off. But after the official announcement at Bound for Glory, what teams can we expect to see in this tournament going forward, and what tag teams from the Knockouts division can we expect to challenge for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships? Well, we've seen Naviya and Jessica Havoc form an unholy alliance. They pretty much are a tag team. They don't have a tag team name, but they're a tag team. They're a tag team, so I certainly expect them to be involved in the tag team tournament. Now, prior to Bound for Glory, obviously, we had the pairing, and this goes back to even Slammiversary, we had the pairing of Kylie Rae and Susie. Now, obviously, that has changed in the last few weeks. Obviously, Kylie Rae's undergoing her absence from Impact Wrestling right now for undisclosed reasons. Susie has recently returned as Su Yung. We don't know the situation or status of the character of Susie, Su Young's alter ego. Of course, Su Yung right now is the Knockouts champion after defeating Deonna Purrazzo at Bound for Glory. So are we going to see Susie and Kylie Rae continue to be a tag team in Impact Wrestling? I don't know. I think, and I don't, to be honest, I don't think Impact officials really know the case of that at the moment as well. So the Susie-Kylie Rae dynamic, if we can get Kylie Rae back, and obviously, again, I've mentioned a couple of videos on this now, when it comes to Kylie Rae's status of Impact Wrestling are putting no pressure on her. They want her to return when she is healthy and ready. So If they can get her back, and when Kylie Rae does come back, I would love to see Kylie Rae and Susie continue to team up and potentially become Knockouts Tag Team Champions. I like the idea of there being Susie in Impact and there being Su Yung. I think we can have alter egos. If Mick Foley can do it, if Bray Wyatt can do it, then Su Yung can do it as well. So I'm excited for that, but of course that does depend on Kylie Rae's status with Impact Wrestling. Now obviously you've got Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan. They're attached at the hip when it comes to Impact Wrestling. They are legitimately a tag team. They were one of the first people during this past week on Impact Wrestling to really stake a claim as to maybe the front runners, and two people that could definitely be focusing all of their attention on the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championship as opposed to focusing for the Knockouts Championship in singles competition. They're a team that I think should be a real front runner when it comes to the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, because they're a legitimate tag team. I think this is so important. With this Knockouts Tag Team division, you can't do the same mistakes that WWE have done with their Women's Tag Team Championships, in that they started off with tag teams when it was Sasha Banks and Bayley and the Riot Squad and the Iconics, but now they've been split up and they've got into regular WWE tag team mode where they're just putting single superstars together. They need to be careful, Impact, and I think the best thing they can do when it comes to the tag team division, the Knockouts Tag Team division, is ensure that we have legitimate tag teams. And I think Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan are perfect examples of just that. Now also we've seen, I mentioned about two single stars coming together. In recent weeks we have seen Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary become close friends in Impact Wrestling, as in the build-up, as we saw in the build-up to the wedding of Rosemary and Johnny Bravo. Now we obviously saw the chaos at the end of the Rosemary and Bravo wedding last week, who shot Johnny Bravo. So will these two continue to be tag team partners going forward? I would like to see that. Although I will say, even though they probably will be involved in the Knockouts Tag Team Championship tournament, they're going to have their hands full with the whodunit drama and mystery when it comes to Johnny Bravo and the wedding of Rosemary. And also you have to consider that Deonna Purrazzo, the former Knockouts champion herself, she has established an alliance with Kimber Lee in recent months on Impact Wrestling. Kimber Lee has sort of been the heavy, shall we say, of Deonna Purrazzo in Impact. So I think potentially we could see this tag team involved in the Knockouts Tag Team tournament going forward, but Deonna Purrazzo could still be involved when it comes to the Knockouts Championship, and Su Yung, we saw her barrister this past week on Impact Wrestling too, so maybe she'll still be focused on the Knockouts Championship. Nevertheless, I think there's a tag team there that can be established with Deonna Purrazzo and Kimber Lee. So Impact has done, in my opinion, a really, really good job of setting the stage for the introduction of these Knockouts Tag Team Championships, and they've been slowly moving the pieces together of making friendship, alliances, partnerships over the past few months on Impact TV. And they've actually, this is even more clever, I think, by Impact Wrestling, is they've been booking a lot of women's tag team matches on Impact Wrestling recently. A lot of the shows have been kicking off with Impact Knockouts tag team matches, or having some main events as knockout tag team matches. Why? The reason why is because they're priming the audience to get used to that Knockouts Tag Team Championship format. And I think it's genius. I think it's absolute genius. So, and a lot of those teams involved that I mentioned there have been involved in these matches. So again, that's incredibly smart. Now, other tag teams you could consider for this tournament, we saw this past week on Impact on Access TV that Jordynne Grace actually teamed up with Alicia Edwards. So I think Jordynne Grace and Alicia Edwards will be involved in the tournament. I've seen some people say that while Jordynne Grace is going to be involved in the intergender scene, she's going to be involved with the X Division Championship like she was at Bound for Glory. I don't think that's the case. I think this is such a big moment for the Knockouts division that having Jordynne Grace still be involved with the Knockouts division, especially a new championship being re-added back to the Knockouts division, it makes a lot of sense for Jordynne Grace to be involved in that, and she will be with Alicia Edwards. But of course, as I mentioned, with the likes of Deonna Purrazzo, maybe Jordynne Grace and Su Yung, we could have Knockouts that are still involved in the Knockouts Championship in a singles capacity, so we might need more Knockouts tag teams to return to Impact Wrestling. So what about some a combination of past Knockout teams and top independent wrestlers that could be added to the Impact roster? We know about the Killer Bays, Heather Monroe and Laura James. They could be a tag team that Impact decide to bring in. The Bird and the Bee, Willow Nightingale and Solo Darling. Again, that could be a tag team that we look at. Davine and Hot Scoop Skylar, easy for me to say, they could be brought in. And Sea Stars, which is of course Ashley Vox and Delmi Exo, I think they could be brought in as well. So there's lots of names there that we could bring in to bolster up that tag team division, which I do think will be a priority in the coming weeks and months for Impact Wrestling as we crown new champions at Hard to Kill. Now, what about previous teams that have been Knockouts Tag Team Champions or part of a Knockouts Tag Team in Impact Wrestling or TNA in the past? Now, Taylor Wilde, I mentioned she was one of the original or one of the inaugural Knockouts Tag Team Champions. She's actually been teasing a comeback, rather, when it comes to the ring for a while. So one has to consider what would she be willing to come back for. Considering she was one of the inaugural Knockouts Tag Team Champions, that makes a lot of sense for her to return to Impact. So maybe Taylor Wilde can get involved in this. Wilde, as I mentioned, alongside her partner, Sarita, who is now retired, was the first ever Knockouts Tag Team Champions, holding the championships over a decade ago. And a lot of people also forget about Madison Rayne as well. Now, Madison Rayne is currently one half of the commentary team on Impact on Access TV, but ever since the rumors that the Tag Team Championships could be returning to Impact Wrestling, Madison Rayne on social media and the subtle hints on TV has teased finding a partner for her to compete for the titles that she's held twice in her career. Now, Madison Rayne previously held the Knockouts Tag Team Championship alongside Velvet Sky as a member of the Beautiful People, but she also had a second reign with the championships a year later with Gail Kim as her tag team partner. Now, of course, Velvet Sky and Gail Kim are retired at this point. However, you can't rule out that potentially Velvet Sky or Gail Kim could return and have a one-time, one-off run with the company when it comes to this Knockouts Tag Team Championship tournament, get a bit of buzz going. I could definitely see maybe Velvet Sky or Gail Kim returning. Of course, Gail Kim still works with Impact Wrestling, with the Knockouts division, so don't rule that out. It certainly is a possibility, but if Velvet Sky and Gail Kim don't return because they are retired, maybe they don't want to come out of retirement, what about a knockout that isn't aligned to any other knockout on the roster right now, that being Tenille Dashwood? We've seen recently Tenille Dashwood return to the company, and Tenille Dashwood has yet to find a partner. Maybe she has to look to the commentary booth and she can find Madison Rayne to become Knockouts Tag Team Champions perhaps, or have a run in the tournament. Now, in terms of the winners of this tournament, I think it's likely that Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary become the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, or potentially Deonna Purrazzo and Kimber Lee. Those are the two teams that make the most sense to me. However, as I mentioned, I'm not massively keen because it does feel like two singles put together, but I think they're the most likely, specifically Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary, considering the amount of TV time they've been getting recently. And I must say, for the design of the new championships, I think they look absolutely fantastic. And I think this is absolutely the right call for Impact to do. The Knockouts division is just brilliant. It absolutely is brilliant. And it's in the conversation for the best women's division in the world right now, whether that's in North America, Europe, Japan, wherever. And again, I always say this, I don't want to turn this into an Impact versus AEW thing, or AEW versus WWE or anything like that, but if you're a North American promotion, comparisons are always going to be made, and the Impact's Knockouts division is by far better than the AEW women's division. It just is. When it comes to the Knockouts division in Impact Wrestling, it's on multiple segments of the show. It's in multiple storylines of the show. You have matches that will be the main event and can be the main event, and there's certainly matches that go longer than 5 minutes, which is what you see on Dynamite every week when you have your token female match on that show. I mean, I mentioned it several times at this point. Jordynne Grace and Deonna Purrazzo, they main evented Impact Emergence and stole the show in an Iron Man match. That ain't happening in AEW. Now, it's happening in WWE without a doubt, but I do think the Knockouts division rivals WWE Women's division. And as I mentioned, I don't want to turn this into an Impact versus AEW thing or an Impact versus WWE thing, but I think at this point, the Impact Knockouts division truly does rival WWE Women's division. It really does. You could argue, and I probably would side, that WWE's Women's division is better than Knockouts, but that's just due to the sheer size and quality in depth of the talent there. But considering that the Knockouts Tag Team Championships are returning, you would think, and you would like to think, that Impact is going to invest in more Knockouts coming in to the company to fill up that division. So Impact has been very smart here. Impact has seen that women's wrestling is so important in modern wrestling. Women's wrestling can draw, it can be the main event, and Impact bringing back the Knockouts Tag Team Championship just reaffirms Impact's commitment to women's wrestling and continuing to build their Knockouts division, which at this point is a true cornerstone of each and every show and pay-per-view that they do. because you're guaranteed to have multiple knockout matches on the show. You're guaranteed to have multiple knockout storyline on the show. And to be honest, you have that anyway. You had that prior to the Knockouts Tag Team Championships returning, but now the stakes are even higher, which is really important. Once the stakes get higher, as a viewer, you get more invested and you're more excited about what you're watching. So we're going to have more Knockouts main events, which is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely one of the best women's divisions that's been booked in the world right now. And it really is starting to rival that WWE Women's Division. And I really think that a lot of people probably wouldn't have seen that coming over the last few years, but it's neck and neck at this point. I really do think that. Now, I saw some people criticizing the decision to bring back the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, saying, oh, who asked for that? Because the way that Impact phrased it is, you asked for it, we're giving it, the Knockouts Tag Team Championships are back. And I saw some people say, oh, nobody asked for that, or you're out of touch. And the thing is, I laugh at those people, because those are the people, they haven't watched Impact in about 2 or 3 years. They think Impact is the same as it was in 2015 or 2016. They still think it's owned by Dixie Carter, or they think it's what it was like in 2010 or whatever. They still think it's got Vince Russo booking it. And they haven't watched Impact in 2 or 3 years. And if you watch it now, you realize it's completely different. It's got so much momentum, so much positivity about it, great people running it. Access Anthem have done a fantastic job in the way they've run it. Scott D'Amore and Don Callis do exemplary roles as executive vice presidents, easy for me to say, and the company is on a massive roll. Their booking of women's wrestling is fantastic. It's incredibly progressive, and I think the next step in evolving that division is bringing back the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. And the thing I would say is that I think with the tag team division and now the singles division too, you do need to add more talent. But as I mentioned, there's lots of talent out there that they could bring in, and we could see some former tag teams return as well. So it's very exciting, and I can't wait for Hard to Kill when we find out who's going to be the first Knockouts Tag Team Champions after the championships have returned to Impact Wrestling. So very, very exciting. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the return of the Knockouts Tag Team Championships? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys and chatting about Impact Wrestling here on the channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.